Hey everyone, Dan here with Indie Drop. Here's what's dropping this week in indie game news. Chainsaw Games had announced an Aftercharge Ultimate Beta Weekend on December 14th, and it's available to PC, Xbox One, and across Play. That's awesome. Claim your key and try the game for free with all the content before its release in January 2019. Simply go to the search bar, afterchargekeys.com. If you are unfamiliar with Aftercharge, the game is an online competitive 3v3 first-person shooter pitting invisible robots against their creators. You can attack with invisible robots and sneak around to destroy the energy extractors. And then finally, with the defending side of it all, you are an enforcer, and you shut down the robots to protect the installations. Again, the game is slated to release in January 2019. Be sure to look out for this game as it looks like a ton of fun. There's a lot of controversy this week, and Epic Games had also announced something pretty rad, in my opinion. Epic Games had announced their games store, which is now live. You can go there and check out a handful of pretty awesome games like Hades. It is an early access for $19.99 there, which I might look into. Hades is created by Supergiant Games, the developers behind Bastion and Transistor. If you haven't checked those games out, I advise you to do so. They're pretty awesome. But anyway, more on the Epic Games store here. There isn't a lot going on. It's pretty bare bones. There's not categories or anything. There's a lot of coming soon games here on the page. But anyway, it's funny that this was announced because Steam was under some heat, and I will go ahead and go over to their blog here. But anyway, Steam was under some heat because developers felt as though their games were shoved under the covers just a bit, mainly because there was, what Steam says, an experiment that was happening, and the algorithm had caused the More Like This section to be affected with more popular games and not like More Like This. So, a lot of the devs were questioning why their games, once it was released, it would spike in sales and immediately drop off and flatline, basically, to death, to where it was blamed mainly because of that More Like This. So Steam is trying to cover their tracks through this blog, saying they're working on it, they're trying to figure it out, although with that Epic Games announcement for their store, I can see a lot of people transitioning over to the Epic Games Store. Now, I didn't mention this before, but the Epic's Game Store, it's giving developers a lot more revenue. And what I mean by that is 88% of the revenue earned is going to the developers, while 12% is going to Epics. And that's waiving the Unreal Engine fees, which seems like a pretty good deal to me. And there's a bonus too for customers or just anyone browsing their store. They are offering every couple of weeks a free game. So that in and of itself is pretty rad in my opinion. So this might be the death of Steam. You never know. I doubt it, but you never know. You really never know. On to our next piece of news. This comes by way, or relayed rather, through the Indie Game website, as last night was the Game Awards for 2018. I'm just going to list off all of the winners that we saw, all of the Indie Game winners that we saw at the Game Awards last night. Dead Cells had nabbed the gold for Best Action Game, which is not surprising. Return of the Obra Dinn was Best Art Direction. The Messenger was Best Debut Indie Game. Overcooked 2 was the Best Family Game, which is really no surprise there. Into the Breach was the Best Strategy Game. And finally, we had Celeste, which won 2 awards, one for Games for Change And finally, the Indie Game of the Year. Awesome nominees this year, I feel like, and it was all well-deserved. I will also mention there was a Game Awards ceremony over in Germany or Europe somewhere also. Crosscode had nabbed the Indie Game of the Year over there also. So I just wanted to make mention of that because I play Crosscode in my Let's Play. Absolutely love that game. Hands down, one of my favorites for this year. And speaking of voting for some games, or, well, obviously some of you had voted for games, or these games, for the Game Awards, this is my final piece of news. IndieDB has Indie of the Year. So there's only 4 days left to vote. Let's see, no, I'm sorry. There's only 3 days. This was on December 6th, so it's the 7th now. 3 days left to vote for the 2018 Indie of the Year Players' Choice Awards. If you're an indie developer, find out how to spread the word about your indie game and secure more votes with our promotional kit. And there's a link there on the Twitter. So be sure to click that and find out what you can do to get people on board with your game and vote for your game, more or less. There you go. That does it for the news this week, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all of the above. Do it, and we'll see you next time.